Ryan here with Potential Pest Solutions, and we have a client in Malvern, Pennsylvania, which is in Chester County near the main line in southeastern Pennsylvania, that had some yellow jacket nests at their property. Now, they actually had 3 total, 2 of which were in the backyard in the ground, and 1 of which was at the garage. And I'm going to show you how we treated all 3 of those. Now, the 2 in the ground we were able to treat and dig up. So this is just a close-up view, and that's pretty cool. You can see the paper of the outer of the nest out of the ground there, which you don't typically see. Usually it's just kind of a hole in the ground. So as always, I'm going to get up close and personal and inject right into the opening of the nest. And of course, I'm wearing my protective suit with some welding gloves on, and I'm going to use my PTPI to inject in there. And then we're going to dig this thing up. So we can see the paper outer layer of the nest there. And I was trying to be pretty gentle because I wanted to see if I could pull the whole thing out, you know, kind of almost excavate it like an archaeologist does. But that's a little bit more difficult to do when you're talking about a paper yellow jacket nest in the ground with a bunch of them swarming around you. So we're about as gentle as a Marine doing a yellow jacket treatment is going to be. But we still got all the comb out intact, which is kind of cool. And no plants were harmed in the making of this video here. Now, what really impresses me about what these in-ground yellow jackets do is just the sheer amount of soil that they excavate to make this cavity where their nest is, because it's not like there's just a big mound of soil on the outside of the hole there, like you would see for like a cicada killing wasp or like a chipmunk or something like that making a hole. They have individual workers take, you know, the soil out piece by piece and deposit it elsewhere, because when I take this nest out, it's just a big cavity of soil. There's just a big cavity where the soil used to be and where the nest used to be. So we can see more of the paper backing there, and I'm just making sure that everything's kind of treated before I just start ripping and wrapping it out of there. And that PTPI is an aerosol insecticide. It's fast acting, it permeates all the little nooks and crannies in there, but most importantly is it doesn't leave any residuals. So we don't have to worry about just kind of indiscriminately treating like that, because there's not going to be any residual left over. So once the nest is out, you can see the big hole that was there. And I'm just feeling around, making sure there's no other comb, no other nesting. And I'm just going to put the dirt back on as best we can and kind of put the bushes back, and it's like it never happened. So that was a pretty good size for an in-ground nest there. Multi-layered, multi-tiered. And I'm just going to pick that up, and we're just going to take it with us to the next nest, because the next nest was only maybe 20 feet or so away. So this next nest that a different colony of yellow jackets made, they actually made this in the middle of the nest, or the middle of the bush here, the middle of the bush clump. So just like Moses, I'm going to part the bush here, inject right into the opening, and then we'll start uncovering this thing. And just like the other one, this one also had some paper nesting right at the opening there. So again, that's not something you typically see. You know, a lot of times we get called for these yellow jackets in the ground. It's because someone ran over it with the mower, they were weed whacking, and you know, it just looks like, honestly, just like a inch in diameter hole in the ground. So to actually see that, you know, the main opening had fibrous nesting material built around it was kind of neat to see. And just like the other one, I'm kind of just going to scrape away the soil as we're doing the treatment here. And now this one had the paper backing all came out at once as well with the nest. So that was kind of cool. And sometimes it's surprising to know that even these underground nests are built just the same as the ones that we find attached to houses and in walls and whatnot. I mean, they have the comb in there, and then they have a paper, kind of a paper protective shell around it. I think that's the queen there. So we're just going to dump her back into her home there. She can die with the rest of them. And we're just going to feel around, make sure everything's out of there before we close it all up. And then again, just like the other videos, I don't show at the very end, because there's always going to be yellow jackets flying around where the nest was just removed from, is I take a gas-powered mist blower with a chemical in there, deltamethrin, and we kind of just apply it to the bushes in the immediate area. And all that's going to do, it's going to help kill off the stragglers much quicker, because those yellow jackets that are flying around, those are the ones that were already out of the nest, and they're coming back and they're like, hey, where's my home at? And just because this is in the backyard where people usually are, you can see the paper backing there. We just want to make sure that we're killing them off a little bit quicker. So not quite as big as the first one. We can see the size difference between the two. So the last nest was at the corner of the garage door framing. So we have to walk around to the front of the house there, but originally when we got there, I mean, there were a lot of yellow. This was the most active nest out of the 3 on the property as far as yellow jackets flying around the opening. And I had them open up the garage just to make sure that it wasn't inside of the wall, and that anything that we were going to treat on the outside or into the void there was not going to result in, you know, the garage being flooded with yellow jackets. So I already checked that out. I just believe that the yellow jackets are in the framing. So what I'm going to do is kind of the same thing as the other two. We're just going to inject with PTPI, permeate that entire void, and then I'm going to use a long-term residual dust called tempo dust and apply it into there. And then we're going to do a spray at the very end. So out of the 3 nests on the property, we were able to physically remove 2 of them. This is the last one that, and we could have removed it if we wanted to remove the framing, but because it was behind the framing and that would have resulted in, you know, quite a bit of damage to the homeowner and I had a conversation, and we just agreed that, hey, let's just kill the nest off. It's behind the wood. It's not damaging anything. Let's kill it off. Let's put a long-term residual chemical in there and not rip the framing apart. Because once you start ripping that framing apart, you need a contractor in there, and you know, the small little project is going to turn into something with quite more expense to it. So they very well may decide to do that in the future, but for today, we're just going to treat and do a fast-acting treatment with the PTPI and a long-acting with the tempo dust and spray the outside and call it good. And then we always tell our clients too that when we leave, you'll always see some yellow jackets or hornets flying around, but by a day or so you shouldn't see any. And if that's not the case, you give us a call or a text and we come right back out, because of course we stand behind all the work that we do, and we're never going to leave a homeowner with an issue that's ongoing. So not only are we thorough during our treatment, but we also stand behind our work with a warranty. Now, another area that nest could have been, and I couldn't really tell if they were going up into the framing or down below, but whenever you have a garage like this with a concrete slab and you have the driveway meeting up to it, there could be a void in between under the ground, not underneath the concrete, but maybe underneath the driveway that they were getting in. So again, it wouldn't be cost effective to rip out to try to find it. So we're just going to make sure that we treat thoroughly up, down, left, and right, and we'll be able to take care of it that way. And sometimes when you use these bulb dusters, they can get clogged up. So we're just making sure everything's unclogged, making sure everything's thoroughly treated, getting all the nooks and crannies in there, and we are good to go. We'll be able to open up the tarp here and see what this nest really looked like. So here are the 2 nests that we were actually able to remove from the ground outside. There, I believe, is the queen. That was the second nest here that we're looking at. And there's the paper backing. So again, whether the nest is under the ground or in a structure, in a tree, or in a house, they're going to make the same kind of nest with the paper backing. So if you have a yellow jacket issue or hornet issue, bee or wasp, it's time to call the professionals at 484-401-4361. And just so you know, Prudential Pest Solutions, we sound big, but we are a family and veteran owned and operated company, and we service all of southeastern and south central Pennsylvania.